founder of TradeNet, the world's largest trading academy, and I have a question for you.
This son of a bitch. Goodbye, baby.
Let me ask a question. What kind of format do you usually play video games on? Cartridges, CDs, cards, floppy disks? How about an audio cassette? Isn't that just a weird thought to play a game on a friggin' cassette tape? This is Transformers for the Commodore 64, the computer that is most definitely more than meets the eye. You start it up and it goes into this flickering hypnotic light show. Wow, great game. Then like 5 minutes later, the title screen comes up. Wait a little longer, then you get to pick your key Autobot. As you can see, there's no Optimus Prime, which is pretty stupid. Instead, it's Rodimus Prime. Then you get the colored light show for another 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, the game starts. Had it not been for the music, I wouldn't even guess this is Transformers. Most of the game's played by using key commands to move your Autobots to different locations. The Autobots are all indicated by numbers. Couldn't they have something a little more, visual? When you engage in battle, it goes into this first-person view. You take the joystick and try to shoot down as many Decepticons as you can. It gets monotonous pretty quick. One of the key commands, that is T for transform, it just, makes you transform. But it doesn't change anything, it's just first-person view, so you can't tell if you're transformed or not. By the way, I'm at a farm with a dinosaur stepping on a space shuttle. I have no comment. Look at this game. Yay! Transformers! Fuck this.
Wouldn't you think that a game based on the Transformers would have more an emphasis on action rather than this strategic simulation thing? Well, guess what? There was a Transformers game that was a side-scroller, but only in Japan. Well, guess what?
Let me introduce the Nintendo Famicom. Simply put, this is the Japanese NES. Very different from that gray box, isn't it? This one's smaller and it's a top loader. It has a nice dust tray, and the controller is attached to the console, which is efficient, but the wires are too short, and they're hardwired into the console so you can never change them. The controllers are the same, select, start, BA, but the second controller, instead of select and start, it has a microphone. Very few games utilize this. From what I understand, in The Legend of Zelda, you kill Pols Voice by making a loud noise into the mic. Of course, that's only in the Japanese version, but the manual still says that Pols Voice hates loud noises, which only mystified players outside of Japan. There's also a disc system, but I need to get a cable for it, so maybe we'll get to that later. I'm getting off track here. Let's play Transformers. The question is, why was this game never released outside of Japan? With the library of games available, it seems most of them, no matter how shitty, would see an international release.
So could it be that this one was just that bad? Let's find out. Ugh, piece of shit.
The title translates to Mystery of Optimus Prime, and that sums it up just perfectly. It's a mystery why Optimus Prime isn't in this game. Instead, it's Ultra Magnus. If you actually beat the game and collect all the letters, you can become Rodimus Prime. But the only difference is the color. So what's the point? They should have just made him the second player like Mario and Luigi. Instead, we have Ultra Magnus and Ultra Magnus. But this is the least of our problems. Check it out. One hit and you're dead. 3 lives, no continues, no checkpoints. You will hear that more often than you hear it in the fucking show. If you're lucky enough to even make it to the second level, you can continue with a simple code. When you get game over, hold A, B, and start. And let me tell you, you're going to be doing that every 30 seconds or so. You'll get to continue forever, but that's still not going to help you get through the levels. You really got to buckle the fuck down and get your video game senses going sky high. Look at this shit. It's almost as bad as Silver Surfer. There's projectiles everywhere. Whenever you try to dodge something, you only get hit by something else. How the fuck does this little thing destroy a giant robot? It's almost insulting how much of an advantage the enemies have. You take one hit, but them, they can sometimes take more. And they're smaller, it doesn't make any fucking sense. They can also pass through solid bricks, but you can't even shoot through the bricks. So if there's an enemy coming at you through the bricks, there's nothing you can do about it. They also camouflage themselves into the background. I can't even see that fucking thing. Couldn't they use any more colors? You can transform, but it's suicide because it takes fucking 3 seconds. Really, if you try to transform, you're leaving yourself open to enemy fire. Only rarely does it actually come into play where you need to transform to pass through a narrow spot. But if you're not careful with it, transforming is the equivalent of saying, "Here, kill me." The hit detection is very biased. To begin with, you're such a big target anyway, but if something comes anywhere near your perimeter, it counts as a hit. However, if you're trying to hit an enemy and your bullet goes anywhere other than dead center, it passes through. And everything's so small, so fast, and moves at such irregular patterns, hitting your mark is like trying to piss into a shot glass that's spinning on a record player that's strapped to a running cheetah's back while you're riding a unicycle on a tightrope blindfolded.
There is absolutely no fucking around with this game, so we gotta get serious. You're familiar with Billy Mitchell, world video game champion? He could probably do it, so I gotta find a way to harness his power, and I think I found a way. This is his hot sauce. You want something that'll kick you in the ass and heighten your senses? This'll do it. Alright, now I'm ready.
God, this game is so crazy. The screen keeps flashing, makes me feel like I'm gonna have a seizure. What the fuck? Ugh, get up there, goddammit! Get up there! Get up there! Ugh, no shitty game's complete without hard-to-reach jumps. What the fuck was that shit? You can't even see what's up there till it's too late. Oh, fuck you. I can't even touch that little sideways ice cream cone. Oh, come on. Come on! Oh, wow, that's real creative, having the Decepticon logo as a boss. That's like with the Ghostbusters game. That is so cheap. The logo belongs on the fucking cover. Oh, man, shoot him! Shoot him! I can't fucking shoot these things! Ah! All these jets, they just keep coming. Oh, no. Ah, you scumfucker! It's too narrow to jump, and it's not the right elevation to shoot him, so it's just a fucking death trap. Gotta jump on the platform. Ah, a jet. How am I supposed to ever predict when something's gonna fly into the screen and kill me? But let me tell you about Stage 9. It's one of the cheapest, most unfair, most cryptic and fucked up levels in the history of games. You keep going to the right, only to play through the same stage again and again in an endless loop. There's nothing in the game explaining what you're supposed to do. You have to read up on the internet to find out. Turns out, you're supposed to get a key, but that's not enough. You also have to follow a specific pattern, almost like a secret maze. Who was supposed to figure that out on their own? It's a lot like in Super Mario Brothers, where you're going through the castle. You have to go up, over, and under the platforms in the correct way, or else the stage repeats. But in Mario, it's much easier to guess. It's a whole lot shorter for one thing, but also, there's not a million things trying to kill you. It's hard to survive, let alone figure out the right pattern. And on top of that, the route that it makes you take is more difficult than the more common sense way.
Need some more hot sauce. It's the end of the road, Megatron. Come on, die! Boom! Yeah! Now that's some intense shit right there. In conclusion, all I can say about this game... Stage 10? I fucking beat Megatron. Who the hell could be next? Fucking stage 10 my ass. I'm guessing if Megatron's not the final boss, it's gotta be Galvatron or maybe Unicron or Fuckatron, who knows? Oh, it's Mechagodzilla, of course. I should have known. Man, that was the hardest game I've ever beat. And all that trouble for an end screen that I can't even read.
I can now conclude that the game barely has anything to do with Transformers. It doesn't even have the music, with the exception of that part. Even the Commodore version had the fucking theme. In this one, the same bland music plays through the whole game, and the boss battles have their own music, but that's about it. Speaking of the bosses, it makes you wonder if the creators of this game even knew anything about Transformers. Did they have to resort to using the Decepticon logo 3 times? That's right, the same boss 3 times. And twice, the boss is like a nuclear macadamia nut inside of a moon. Like they didn't have enough Decepticon characters to choose from? Did they ever fucking watch the show? As for the Autobots, even the Commodore version had a lot to choose from. Sure, they existed mostly in text, but at least it acknowledged them. But Transformers or not, it's just a fucking shithole of a bad game. Most of the levels are the same exact thing over and over, just modified slightly. And Stage 10 is just Stage 8 backwards. But the big problem is the difficulty. Who is this game intended for? Certainly not gamers who wanted a reasonable challenge or fans of Transformers. It disappoints in both ways.
So now, is it any wonder why this game was never released outside of Japan? 'Cause nobody else wants to play this fucking shit! Well, I gotta do what I gotta do. One shall stand, one shall shift. Whoa, 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 whoa. Who are you?
My name is Optimus Prime.
Well, you don't look anything like me.
I thought you were made of sterner stuff.
How good do we work together using Monday.com? This good. Collaborate like never before.
Mario, Mario, Mario. There were so many Mario games, it was like an infestation. But what about Luigi? Nobody cared about him. He got shoved to the sideline while his brother enjoyed all the fame. But then came Mario's Missing, the first game to star Luigi. He wasn't good enough to make it into the title, but hey, when this came out, I thought, that sounds like a great idea. But no, it would only further cement the character into an eternal waste. The first thing that happens, we see Mario get a bag thrown over his head. How does he get inside the bag? Is there a hole in the bottom? Why can't he get out? It begs an explanation. Anyway, it's up to Luigi to save him. He comes out riding on Yoshi. Now it's pretty obvious the graphics are ripped right from Super Mario World, and for the 8-bit NES, it looks quite good, but that only gives you the false impression that this game may be decent. The castle part only serves as a backdrop which takes you to the main game. The main game is walking around a boring-ass town talking to people who don't even look like they belong in a Mario game or a Luigi game. They tell you all about Liberty Island, and that's when it occurs to you, you're playing an educational game.
It's educational? I don't want to be educated. I want to rot my brain. This is Luigi's first game, and this is what he gets?
What a piece of shit. The whole concept is that the Koopa Troopas have stolen objects from famous landmarks and you gotta get them back. The Koopa Troopas can't even hurt you. Now, come on. Come on! You jump on them and collect a money bag. That's it. But it's not a money bag even though it has a fucking dollar symbol. Instead, it's a bag that contains a stolen object. So you gotta find out which famous landmark it belongs to. You know, what's Luigi doing anyway? Isn't he supposed to be rescuing Mario? Why is he in New York City trying to find landmarks? And what do you think that is? Looks like the Empire State Building being gripped by King Kong. Of course, the same ape that was able to climb the building is now big enough to close his hand around it. What's this say? Koopas seem to have gotten clean away with King Kong? Are you telling me you're supposed to return King Kong to the Empire State Building? This blows my mind on so many levels. First of all, how did the Koopas capture King Kong? Second, why is New York City concerned that King Kong was stolen from the Empire State Building? Remember when the planes were trying to shoot him down? Isn't it pretty clear they want Kong off the building? Third, if this is supposed to be an educational game teaching us things that belong to New York City, why in the holy mother of fuck did they choose a giant ape that doesn't even exist? Fourth, the bag. Okay, King Kong is like 50 feet tall or something, but in this game they made him out to be like 1,500 feet. How big is he exactly? Well, if bigger than the Empire State Building isn't a good enough analogy, then let's just say a lot bigger than that fucking bag! And fifth, I can't grasp the concept that King Kong is in a Mario game, the same character that was the direct inspiration for Donkey Kong, who also appeared in games with the Mario character. Are we running into some kind of paradox here or what? There's sort of like a help desk where you're supposed to return the object or the landmark or whatever, but the lady at the window won't talk to you unless you call Yoshi to come and give you an extra boost. Okay, so are you telling me that the reason that stupid bitch won't talk to you at first is because Luigi is too short to reach the window? For fuck's sake, he can jump higher than this shitting thing. How stupid do they think we are? Use Yoshi to reach the help desk. Well, how about use my greasy Italian plumber cock to whack you across the fucking face? The control is broken beyond belief, and you'd think, how could they fuck up the control on a Mario game? Well, for the most part, it's fine, but sometimes when you go to a new screen, it gets stuck for a second. God, move! Move! God, what a shitload of fuck. You know what took me a real long time to figure out? How to go up the road. You have to be standing right on the dotted line. If you're just a few pixels off, nothing happens. In contrast, take a look at the Super Nintendo version. It's pretty much the same game, just with better graphics. But here, when you try to go up the road, all you get is the sound of cars blaring their horns. Who the hell's honking at me? Are the cars invisible? Well, anyway, the spot you're supposed to stand is the complete opposite. It's the sidewalk. I guess they were trying to be more realistic with this one. If there's one thing it teaches kids, it's not to walk down the middle of the road. But check it out, now we're in for some fuck. This is Mario's Time Machine. Judging from the title, you'd think it'd be awesome. Imagine Mario going back in time, kind of like Turtles in Time. I mean, no. Let's not even compare that. This is another educational game, and I put that in quotes because it's barely educational and barely a game. How can you call it a game when you can't even die? The idea is to find different objects and return them to their appropriate time period. To find these objects, you walk around a museum, go in a random door, and fight Koopa Troopas in the style of the classic Mario Bros. Arcade. Once you kill them all, the object appears. So once you get the object, you take it to the time machine, conveniently built out of pipes. Choose the time period and you're on your way. But once you get here and find out you've chosen the wrong time, guess what? You gotta go back and fight the Koopas again. Man, does this become boring. It's one thing to make a shitty Mario game, but when you make the original Mario Brothers seem shitty, that's quite an accomplishment. So right off the bat, you have to associate an object with a year in history. If you go to the time period, you find clues amongst clocks and hourglasses. Wouldn't it make more sense if they gave you the clues before you went to the time period, not the other way around? The next thing you have to do is place the object in a specific spot. The object I have is an apple, the clues are talking about Isaac Newton, and there's a tree. Didn't Newton come up with his theory of gravity from an apple dropping from a tree? Makes sense, so I release the apple, I'm told it's the wrong location, and a bird comes and takes the apple away. So you know what I gotta do now? Go back to the fucking Koopas! But I don't even know what I did wrong. Should I have stood on top of the tree, or was I in the wrong time period altogether? You'll never know unless you run all around the game like a fucking asshole. I'd hate to say it, but there's also a Super Nintendo version. I guess we better take a quick look. Here it lets you pick the object right as the game starts. Then the time machine comes down. But unlike the NES version where you have different dates to choose from, here you have to pick a location, then manually put in a year and BC or AD, so there's only so many possible combinations you can get right. If it's a time and place that's not in the game, you won't find out until first you go surfing. Yeah, this takes the place of the whole Koopa section, but it's even more redundant. What you have to do here is collect 10 mushrooms and then go in a whirlpool, but the mushrooms are so small and you can barely tell them apart from these other things that look like sea urchins. And the sea urchins take your mushrooms away. And worse, there's a fucking time limit. If the time runs out, you gotta do it again. And how ironic is that there's a time limit to go back in time? Then you
it
get to the
was a
time
spam
period,
link or
check out some
something.
clues, answer
Somebody
some
say
questions, and more clues and
This is the most
questions.
people I've
and-
ever had watch me on Twitch.
Fuck. Just trust me. It's not too exciting.
You know what? Educate me. Please educate me. Because I'm going through sensory deprivation. I'm so fucking bored, I'd rather go back to school than play this shit. I'm aware that there's lots of other Mario educational games, many which were for PC.
Those
But
are
these
funny.
two on the NES and Super
Mario
NES lead
teaches
you to
typing
believe
is the
that they
best
may be
one.
good. They're on the same platform which brought us all the great
$1.89.
Mario classics. They feature the same graphics as Super Mario World, and the titles don't even sound educational. They could have been called Mario's Geography and Mario's History Lesson. But educational or not, these games are horrible abominations of space and time that give insult to the very fabric of nature itself. In other words, they suck.
Say Rayquaza EX with some things on the back so I can sell it.
I remember in the early 90s seeing commercials for the 3DO. It was advertised as the most advanced game system, and it forced itself right into your face. Like, if you don't get this thing, you're gonna get left in the dust. It even went out of its way to insult Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, saying that those are just baby toys. Well, everybody I knew had those baby toys, and nobody, I repeat, nobody I have ever met owned a 3DO. Probably because its price in the US was $700. I mean, fuck. But you better buy it because this is the real gaming console. That was its slogan, real. Because it's a real piece of shit. This new interactive CD-ROM technology, it sort of blurred the line between games and movies. Was this the new future of gaming? Nobody knew, and nobody wanted to be the guinea pig. Usually you get the chance to play the new hot gaming console over a friend's house, but nobody had it. So the 3DO came and went, and now it's just a curious piece of history. There were many different models. This right here is the FZ1 made by Panasonic. It only has one controller input. Wow. Now that's what you call an advanced system, isn't it? Instead of two controller inputs, let's just have one. Let's make it so you have to plug the second controller into the first controller and just daisy chain them together. What were they fucking thinking? Then there's the FZ10, which is a top loader. Still, there's only one input. And the last one I have is the Gold Star. How many inputs? Just one. You think if they made so many versions of the same game system, they'd eventually add another controller port. The games are obviously on CDs, which come in jewel cases, but the jewel cases come in these rectangular boxes. This makes it hard to fit on your shelf. What a waste of space! These are the most oversized game boxes I've ever seen. They're even bigger than the Neo Geo boxes. And Neo Geo games are huge cartridges, so they have a perfect reason to make a big box to hold a big game. But these are just CDs. It's completely unnecessary. Now, to be fair, there are some good games on the 3DO, including the definitive home port of Super Street Fighter II Turbo. A lot of the more gimmicky games show off the CD technology and are more like watching a movie than playing a game at all. Some of them are pretty impressive for its time, like Wing Commander 3, which features big-name actors like Malcolm McDowell and Mark Hamill. I searched high and low to find the worst possible 3DO game in this category, and I believe I found it. It's called Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Judging from the box, I don't even know what to think of it. An interactive romantic comedy. A plumber, a daddy's girl, chickens, crazed yuppies, evil bosses, shower scenes, race cars, pandas, a nun?
What kind of game is this?
$1.57.
What's this? Get it? No! I don't get it!
Hi, my name's Jane. We hardly know each other, but that's about to change.
Oh,
This
hey.
is interesting.
Put your big, muscular arm around me and whisper sweet things in my ear. And I promise you do whatever your little heart desires.
Korean
Wow.
gentleman.
Now listen up. The rules of the game are real simple. You see, I meet this guy in a parking lot.
Thank you,
Now,
Bo.
you are supposed to identify with this guy.
So she talks for 3 minutes as the camera zooms in on her breasts. Then the title screen pops up. You can't be serious. It looks like a kindergarten student did this in Microsoft Paint. And listen to the stock music. This has to be the worst title screen I've ever seen. Then come the credits. Race cars? Why is the color a negative? And then it goes into sort of a mosaic. Looks like a bad quality picture off the web. Then it goes to like a vertical letterbox. The titles are so bland. There's no drop shadow to separate them from the background, and the colors are picked at random, like a child selecting random pieces of chalk on a sidewalk. And it just goes on and on. Why are we watching still images of race cars? Why all the wacky filters? Why does it keep showing a naked guy lying in bed? Why is there a panda in a car on the bed? Why'd they leave so much extra space when they cut out the panda from whatever background it originally belonged to? Why is the perspective butchered so badly? It doesn't even look like it's really there. But then why would it be there anyway? Now why is it just a head of a panda? Why would there ever be a floating head of a panda next to someone's bed? We haven't even gotten through the credits yet, and this game is already a pile of monkey fuck. Okay. What's this? What's going on? Okay, so the credits are finally over, and now we get a slideshow.
It's your mother. Now get your ass out of bed. I know you're there, John. John? I said get up, John.
Get out of bed, John. Get out of bed. Yeah, great concept. Every game should begin with 2 minutes of some guy's mom trying to get him out of bed.
Stop smart-mouthing with me, young man. Why is it I haven't seen you with any woman? Why is that, John? Don't you like women anymore? John, are you gay?
What?
That's what we're doing
Cut
right now.
the crap and listen to me. It's time you got married. You need children. I need grandchildren. I need my only child to bear fruit. And in my lifetime, don't you love your mother?
This is not a game. This is like watching a movie. Or no, it isn't. A movie is something that moves. This doesn't move. It's a bunch of still images. If the beginning was actual video, why couldn't the rest be?
Oh, thank God that's over. Now maybe we get to play the game.
Where are you, Jane?
You called me, Daddy. Don't you know where I'm at?
What? There's more of this shit?
Why the hell aren't you married yet, Jane? In that last scene, that bitch of a mother told her son to have kids.
And keep in mind, you're seeing the abridged version. I've been sitting here nearly 10 minutes so far.
Christ's sake, girl, how long does it take these days? You ain't that busy. Now, damn it, Jane, you get on the stick and make some babies for your poor old father.
So there's her story. John and Kate are both pressured by each of their parents to find a significant other. Then we get a montage set to rockabilly music. Apparently, both Jane and John, these two unrelated characters, are taking showers at the same exact moment. There's a code to remove the censor bars, or censor face with the nose, but that's only if you really want to see John's hairy ass that much. They drag these scenes on as long as possible. Why is any of this necessary? Do we need to see their whole daily routine? Changing clothes, lifting weights, playing with cats, trying on more clothes, playing air guitar with a plunger? Oh, so is he a plumber? Well, the game's called Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, so I guess it makes sense. He's a plumber, and I don't see him wearing a tie. What the fuck? You can't even trust the damn title! And it keeps on going. We see everything. He gets on a motorcycle, she gets in a car, she's putting on lipstick, he drops his mail in the mailbox. Come on, why is that important? Then finally, Jane and John meet in a parking lot.
Whoa! It's 8 o'clock and I'm seeing a 10. What I wouldn't give to do her plumbing.
Yeah, okay. Okay. What the fuck?
We know she'd like to meet him. She knows she'd like to meet him. But does John know she'd like to meet him?
And now we get a narrator? After 15 minutes of this crap, all of a sudden we need a narrator to start explaining it?
It's up to you, sport.
Then finally we get a choice of what happens next.
So, who do you want to make the first move? If you want John to do it, hit A now.
This is the first time there's any interactivity with this game whatsoever, but it's just as much interactive as playing with the menus on a DVD. There's games like Night Trap and Dragon's Lair, which are like movies, and there's not a lot of actual gameplay, but this piece of shit is way, way below that. This isn't even in the same category as those kind of games. It's the bare minimum of what you can actually call a game.
Do girls actually like guys who are really aggressive? I don't think so.
But what makes it even worse is, the control. Yeah, you might be wondering, how the fuck could the control be bad on something like this? Well, what happens, the highlighter gets stuck. At first, I thought my D-pad was broken. But no, what it is, you have to wait for the narration to finish.
John throws caution to the wind and pursues Jane. Be careful!
Every fucking time you move, you have to hear the same thing before you can use the D-pad again.
Do girls actually like guys who are really aggressive? I don't think so.
What the fuck?
Have John wait later on.
So Jane rejects John and goes to a job interview. Gotta love the elevator music. So then we get a choice.
Like
either she gets the job, she doesn't get the job, or the boss becomes a pervert.
Note, you must be 18 or over to take a look at this decision.
What?
You gotta be 18? On the box, it says 17. This was before the rating system. But what kind of fucked up rating is this? The box says 17, but for this one part, you gotta be 18.
You know, perhaps something can be worked out after all. Take your clothes off, Jane.
Oh my god.
Oh shit.
You know, we get at least 200 qualified applicants for every position here. It's those people who do that little extra thing. They're the ones who get ahead.
Oh, what a bad joke. It doesn't even have any relevance now. He just told her to take off her clothes. He might as well say straight out, suck my cock.
Take your damn clothes off!
What a pervert. And what's with all the filters?
Now see how your sick curiosity led Jane into this mess?
Time for another decision. Either she refuses to take off her clothes or she accepts. Now, wait a minute. The first decision says our heroine declines the disgusting proposal. But in the image, she seems to be taking off her clothes while running away, but still. It doesn't make any sense. Did they swap the images by accident? So let's go with the more interesting choice. Damn! She just happened to have a whip and handcuffs? Wow, I had no idea she'd actually do it.
What kind of fucked up game is this? What's with the crazy filters?
Oh, now you've done it. You've really done it. How could you make Jane into such a perverted young thing? I've guided a lot of people through this story, but I've never seen such a disgusting series of plot choices in my life.
A fucking chicken mask. An upside down fucking chicken mask.
So anyway, Mr. Chickenhead scolds you for your bad decision and tells you that you have one last chance. So let's pick the other one and see what happens. So she strips down to a bra and skirt for no apparent reason. The boss grabs her leg, she kicks him in the face and runs for the door. Or no, she doesn't run, she just stands there. The boss grabs a pen and comes after her like a deranged psychopath. And there's Jane just standing there. She even has time to go into the men's room. The boss goes into the women's room, and next thing they're both out in the hall. I don't know, I don't even understand this. Now they're outside, and she has her clothes back on. I guess it was a public parking lot, and they couldn't just have a girl running around in a bra and skirt. I don't know. Maybe the actress didn't want to do it, but for whatever reason, it doesn't follow any continuity. Then John sees what's happening. Now, what was he doing in the parking lot the whole time? Just sitting on his motorcycle? So he comes running, and I guess he's gonna save her. Oh no, it's time for the narrator.
Shit.
Well, sport, you think you can handle this choice without getting the lowest score in the history of this game?
What, there's somebody else who played this shit?
Who the hell are you?
I'm taking over this story.
Who's this?
Over my dead body?
I wonder how this would have all played out if it was actually moving.
I'm taking it over. Finally got rid of that obnoxious character. And that horrible music.
No kidding. At least the game's self-aware.
I'm what's known as a takeover artist, wanted in 30 states for hijacking fiction.
So she's taking over as the narrator. Why is this necessary? Do we not have enough narrators? On the selection screens, we have at least 2 different voices talking to us. And then on top of that, there's this goofball, and now a fucking karate chick. So now she's looking at the past choices we made, just so she can scold us and we have to hear the same shit all over again.
These are the most disgusting series of plot choices I have ever seen.
Yeah, I get it.
You deserve every minus point you have gotten, and even more.
I get it.
I don't believe it. How could you make such choices?
Enough already.
Were you raised in a barn?
Could they possibly drag this out any longer?
Help me, help!
Run, Jane, run!
What? Her shirt's back off again? Okay, so the parking lot was obviously not a problem, because now she's in an even more populated area. Oh, here comes the banana peel. Classic. The longer this goes, the more you wish that it was full motion video. I mean, that's what this kind of game is classified as. Full motion video, FMV. But the only motion part is the beginning. It's not like the 3DO was incapable of this. The Sega CD could do it, and that was before. And if you look at Wing Commander 3, the whole game is full of video. And it's almost like DVD quality. It looks good. And that was the same console. So if that game could do it, why not this one? So they're running through Hollywood, goofing around in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater, Griffith Observatory, and it's like a series of vacation photos. This is horrible. This isn't something you make into a game and put into stores. This is like a weird sort of college experiment. If you even count this as a game, it's probably the worst game I've ever seen in my life. And that's one hell of an accomplishment. This chase scene goes on and on and on. And we get the battle of the narrators intermixed with the whole thing, just to stretch it out even longer. What's going on? Why are there lines of bullets? If he's shooting her, shouldn't the bullets be coming from the gun or scattered across her body? Why are they just placed randomly all over the screen? And they put an X on her face to show that she's dead.
I'm back in control now.
Are there dogs applauding? I'm not imagining that, am I? There's dogs clapping. I didn't even know that dogs were fucking watching. So the next thing that happens, the boss, whose name is Thresher, by the way, he offers to pay Jane for sex. So after trying to rape her and kill her, now he's offering her money. So for the next 5 minutes, John tries to persuade Jane while she negotiates her price with Thresher.
Your original deal was $5 million for one night, right? So what's $7.5 million for 2 nights? I'm giving you a $2.5 million discount.
That's way too rich. 5.5 million.
I'm not kidding. It goes on for like 5 minutes. It's like $5 million for a day, $7.5 million for a weekend, $5 million, $7 million, $5 million, $20 million for a week. Ah, like stop it! Get to the point.
No way, I ain't no slut. 7.
6.
Later that night, oh, thank God.
6 7/8. How much is that anyway?
What? They're still negotiating? And how is it later that night? It's not night. It's not fucking night. So then John goes into this big emotional speech.
I don't want you for a night. I want you for a lifetime. I've been searching for you.
What's going on? Why are people laughing?
I'm gonna keep that in the script.
It's an outtake? They left an outtake?
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna take
Just for a joke?
Okay.
So it's technically not an outtake. It's an intake of an outtake. What the fuck? Why'd they do this? His slip was that he said searching for me instead of searching for you. Was it that funny? So if you have Jane accept Thresher's offer, they just walk away, you get scolded, and then you have to go back to the decision.
Uh-oh, I screw up. Could you give me another run?
So if you pick the other choice, she walks away with John. They go out in the parking lot where they originally met. I don't know if to be ironic or just out of convenience.
Well, congratulations.
Now for the final choice. Either I want the Hollywood ending or give me something different. Yeah, you know what? Give me something different. Give me a different fucking game.
This is one of the worst things I have ever seen in my life. On the box, it says plays like a game, but feels like a movie. Well, that's horse shit. It does not play like a game, and it certainly does not feel like a movie. It's a slideshow that verges on being softcore porn, but it isn't that either. It's like some kind of experimental art project. If I just made a bunch of shit and put all kinds of filters on it, that would be the same as this miserable pile of fuck. It would also be the same to go take a shit on a piece of toast on top of a roof while wearing a fish mask singing "I'm Too Sexy."
This food truck is our baby. And like any baby, it's loud, stressful, and draining. And we love it. I refuse to let migraine keep me from saying, I am here.
Aimovig, a preventive treatment for migraine in adults, reduces the number of monthly migraine days. For some, that number can be cut in half or more. The most common side effects are pain, redness or swelling at the injection site, and constipation. Talk to your doctor about Aimovig and be there more.
What's up, Doc?
Wow! It's been a while since I seen you. What game you hit me with? Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle? I can't wait to play this. Oh! What was that?
Play the game, Doc.
I'm not playing this shit.
Come on, Doc. Stick it in the Nintendo.
How about stick it up your rabbit hole?
Yeah, when you played Birthday Blowout, you knew you had some unfinished business, Mac. Yeah, play the game for 2 minutes, and I'll let you hit me again.
So this is Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle. All you have to do is collect carrots. Once you get all the carrots, you go to the next stage, and it's just the same shit over and over. Crazy Castle? It's not too crazy, is it? The Birthday Blowout game was actually more crazy because that was like an action game, but this is more like a puzzle game. So why wasn't this one called Birthday Blowout and the other one Crazy Castle? One good thing I have to say, it has the shortest, sweetest password I've seen in a while. Anyway, there's a bunch of Sylvesters coming after you. You drop stuff on their heads or hit them with boxing gloves. The only thing you can't do is jump. If you end up in a corner, you're done. Come on, he's a bunny. He can't jump? Oh, you fucking coyote cunt got my ass against the wall. There's no way out of this. Look at him. He's just gonna pace back and forth. Time to commit suicide. This time I'm gonna drop this anvil down on him. Oh, he went the other way, you fucking shit nugget. You gotta time it just right. You see, I'm just gonna kick this crate over here. There's some Sylvesters. Oh, fuck, if I can just get the invisible ink. Is he just gonna stand there? Great, I'm coming down. Oh, balls.
Alright, that's it. I'm done with this game. I'd rather press my face against a hippopotamus's butt while it muck spreads. That's when a hippo takes a shit. Rather than allowing the shit to drop from its anus, it presses its tail against its ass crack, waving it back and forth, shredding the shit all over the place. That's as much fun as this game is, like putting a turd in a fan or a bandsaw. You just don't do it.
you got another game.
Crazy Castle 2? There's a sequel? How could this be possible? I'm not playing this.
But you want to play it.
No, I don't want to.
You do want to.
I don't want to.
You do want to.
I don't want to.
You do want to.
I don't want to.
You don't want to.
I do 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 want to. And you're not going to stop me.
Crazy Castle 2, what can you say? It's the same shitty game, but on a Game Boy screen. So in case you need your Crazy Castle action on the go, this is the game for you. The only big difference is that you're collecting keys instead of carrots. When you get all the carrots, you can unlock the final door and proceed to the next level. There's more a variety of traps and weapons. Watch this, I'm gonna kill Tweety. Yeah, that's what I like to see. You also get these blocks which make you jump, but couldn't they be a little more creative here? How about a spring or a trampoline? Not just a block that says up. The controls are a little stiff. I just want to go up the steps. Oh, fuck, now I'm dead. They tried to put new things into this game to make it better than the NES version, but it only sucks even more because it's on Game Boy. I mean, look at this. Would you want to play this? If you do, you probably like playing with dog turds.
Alright, I'm done with this. I'd rather lick the shit skid off the inside of a toilet bowl.
Oh, no! Whoa! God! You Nintendo dork, you broke my fucking house!
It's a fucking bunny! You go to fucking Bugs Bunny boot camp? Come on, I thought Toons liked to get beat up.
We do, Doc. But you know what we don't like? Getting shit on the fucking face!
That was 2 years ago.
Well, now it's your turn, Doc. Motherfucking nerd! Ain't I a stinker?
Go away. Just leave me alone.
Not yet, Doc. You still got another game.
What? Crazy Castle 3? Crazy Castle 3? That's impossible.
Now I think I understand the relevance of the title. It's crazy that there's so many sequels. I can see why there'd be one on NES and one on Game Boy, but why another? It's the same fucking thing. You go around collecting keys to open the door to go to the next stage. Now let me ask something. When would there ever exist a door that takes 8 keys to open? And it's monotonous how the keys themselves are indoors. The only thing that distinguishes the final door from the rest is that tiny lock which you'd need a magnifying glass to see. What's the point of having these doors anyway? When you go in the room, you find a key every time. So wouldn't it be a little more efficient not to have the doors, just have the keys out in the open? What were they thinking? The only fun part's blowing the living fuck out of Tweety. However, it becomes even more redundant after you've annihilated everybody. There's nothing left to kill you, so you're just walking around getting all the keys. Pretty exciting, isn't it? Almost as exciting as watching a dog scarfing out its anus.
Come on, get him!
him. He's the one that broke the couch.
Well, technically it was a futon.
I don't care what it is. Get him! Boil those bunny balls.
Here you go, Doc.
Doggone, you mean old screwy wascally wabbit? What's this? Crazy Castle 4? How many of these fucking games could there possibly be?
You better play it, Doc, before I ram my rabbit fist right up your motherfucking ass.
Alright, well, if you just can't get enough Crazy Castle action, here comes number 4. It starts out with Bugs Bunny looking at a map. On it, he sees a castle, but all it says is C Castle. So Bugs thinks about it and decides that C must stand for carrot. And that means he thinks the castle's full of carrots, and from how much he loves carrots, he rushes over there. And of course, the game has to explain to us that C really stands for crazy and not carrot. Like we're fucking idiots. This is only the 4th fucking game, right? You're going around opening doors that lead to rooms that have keys. You get all the damn keys and go to the final door. I mean, what am I supposed to say? It's so hard to even imagine that this game exists, and I'm trying to review it. It's like trying to review a pink porcupine with a monkey's head up its butt eating a buffalo's ball sack. Should I describe what it looks like and analyze it? Or should I just be so fucking shocked the thing even exists?
Yeah, you ain't done yet, Doc. You still gotta get the carrot.
Oh, you like fucking carrots, don't you? Huh? Well, why don't you play it then? You're a bunny. You play. You play this filth.
Oh, you like fucking carrots, don't you? Eat that fucking carrot. Eat this fucking carrot, you fucking piece of shit. Eat that fucking carrot. Rabbits in your fucking carrots. Did you shove that fucking carrot in your fucking ass?
What's up, Doc?
Give me the guitar. I will not give it to you. Give me the guitar. I need it. No. I need it's mine. Get your own guitar. Give me the guitar. I need it. Great, I guess I just gotta get another couch and another guitar.
Of course you realize this means war, bitch! Motherfucking nerd! You pulled this game out of my ass, Doc!
No wonder where this shit comes from.
Woody Woodpecker in Crazy Castle 5? This can't be real. Okay, first of all, how is it Crazy Castle 5 if it's not Bugs Bunny?
It begins with this stupid intro where fairies come and tell Woody he's gotta save Crazy Castle from the monsters. The graphics are more advanced and you have the ability to break things with your beak. One thing that's really annoying is that when you open a chest to get an item, you don't automatically get the item. So I end up leaving the room thinking I got the key when I really didn't. In a good game like Zelda, you open the chest and that's it. But here, you have to stop, wait for the item to dangle in the air, and then grab it. It's like trying to grab dried shit dangling from a chihuahua's ass hair. Other than that, there's not a damn thing to say. I wonder why it's Woody Woodpecker. You know, now that I think about it, both Woody and Bugs were created by the same guy, Ben Bugs Hardaway. That's very interesting. Oh, and wait, The very first cartoon to feature a precursor of Bugs Bunny was Porky's Hare Hunt. It had Mel Blanc doing the bunny's voice. He was the same guy who was the first voice for Woody Woodpecker. So Woody and Bugs, could it be they're the same?
Yeah. What's up, Doc? That feels good, Doc. Yeah, just like good old times, Doc. Like when I shoved Elmer Fudd's head up the Tasmanian Devil's fucking asshole. Yeah. How's it feel to be a dying man, nerd? You're a dead man. You're a dead man.
Bullshit!
Guess who?
I knew it.
You're gonna die, nerd!
I don't give a fuck! I'm taking you with me! Oh, you like to play with bombs, huh? Well, bombs away, you Woody Bunny fucking pecker piece of shit! Let's play charades. Who am I?
If you guessed Pitfall Harry, then you're right. Good old Harry got his start in Pitfall, the classic Atari game, but he didn't start acting like an asshole until the NES came along. Super Pitfall, one of the most deceptive uses of the word super in video game history. You want to know why? You want to know why this game super sucks? You want to see how hard they cranked up the diarrhea dial? Just watch. Nice. Fucking beautiful. The first ladder you see drops you into a pit where you get killed by a bird or a bat, whatever it is. And even if it wasn't there, I'd fall on the spikes. So it's basically death insurance. Let's put every kind of obstacle we can possibly think of in the very beginning of the game. You know, I'm disappointed. Couldn't there have been lava on top of the spikes with fire sharks swimming in it? Couldn't there be more spikes coming from the sides ready to close in and squash me while stabbing at the same time? How about some laser cannons and upside down volcanoes? You want to be even more efficient? Why even have the ladder? Why not just start the game falling down the pit? Fucking assholes. Talk about a beginner's trap. They sure nailed it. Well, let's talk about Pitfall Harry. He looks like Luigi, and there's something wrong with his walk cycle. Looks like he's hopping on one foot. But the most ridiculous thing about this guy is the way he dies. What is that all about? He goes fucking apeshit. It even kills the enemies that are nearby. My only theory to what's going on here is that there's an angel and a devil waiting to take him to either heaven or hell. It's first come, first serve, and they both want him real bad. So they're constantly there, waiting for him to die. And then as soon as he dies, they both grab his arms, fighting over his body. That's the only explanation that I can think of. The enemies in this game are a total joke. Spiders? Frogs? Are frogs a common hazard that you would face in a jungle? Has anyone ever died by getting attacked by a fucking frog? And he uses a gun? Who the hell goes around shooting frogs? Harry can't shoot while ducking, and that's a big problem because most of the enemies are too short. You can hit the frogs only if you time their jumps very carefully. The spiders, the scorpions, and just about everything else, it's like tough shit. Does Harry have a problem with his arms? He can't point the gun in any direction other than right in front of his own fucking face? The number one complaint that I have with this game is that all the items are invisible. They only appear when you jump in a very specific spot. Everything from bullets to special objects that you need in order to unlock certain parts of the game, everything is invisible. So unless you know where everything is, you're just gonna have to go through the whole game jumping around like a fucking idiot. The only items in plain sight are the gold, but the gold has no purpose other than getting points. Unless you're playing an Atari game, nobody really cares about getting a high score. It's more about just finishing the game. So the gold is there just to waste your fucking time. You gotta convince yourself to just walk past it. But that's hard to do because not only is it the only thing in the game that's not hidden, but it flashes. Like, ooh, look at that flashing gold. So tempting. But no, just pretend it's not there. The only other item I found is a crazy bug-eyed animal in a cage. I have no idea what that is or when you'll ever need it. I don't know, could you ever think of any way to use an animal in a cage? I can't. The graphics do a lot of flickering. There's always something popping out at the edge of the screen, like the NES can't handle its awesomeness. The weirdest thing I ever saw happen was that for a fraction of a second, there was like a red clone. Like, who's that supposed to be, the ghost of Pitfall Larry? Playing this game is like driving an old beat-up car. You're always afraid it's gonna break down. What happened here? I'm frozen? Okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna... Oh, okay, now he dies? I guess the angel and devil were busy looking for him that time. Nothing about this game makes any sense. The whole layout was designed at pure random. Like, why are there so many ladders that lead to nowhere? Why is there an anti-gravitational lake that's bottom leads to thin air? Down is the worst direction you could possibly go in this game, because you're always going to end up falling and killing yourself. Oh, that's great. They did that on purpose. It looks like you could just barely steer yourself to the left, but that fucking platform's tucked in too far. Falling is your worst nightmare. There's one part where you have to climb up, 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 and if you make one mistake, you're falling down, down, down. You have no idea how long it took to get that far. Now I gotta do it all over again. This game is unholy. It's fucking made in hell, I swear. Oh shit, what the fuck was that? That's fucking scary. You're just walking around and a head run amok from Easter Island comes flying towards you. Okay, how did I survive that? The weirdest thing is when the face doesn't even come after you a second time. It just sits there. Then if you walk away and come back, it disappears. So where did it go? Who knows? Who cares? This game is a lot like Milon's Secret Castle and Simon's Quest, because the whole thing is about secrets. In order to access certain parts of the game, you have to jump into walls. Who would think to do that? It's like in Simon's Quest where you have to kneel down by the wall, holding a red crystal and wait for a tornado to come. Okay, well maybe it's not that cryptic. This is the last part of the game, some kind of dungeon with skulls and shit. Kind of reminds me of the Temple of Doom. I like this part for two reasons. One, it's the only part in the game that has different music. What a relief. The other thing, it's the only place that has enemies that are tall enough to shoot. I don't know why everything else had to be so small. Like those snails. Killed by a fucking snail. Oh, must be Pitfall, Gary. That's the princess, or whatever she is, just some girl you're trying to rescue. When you get to this part, your first instinct is to get over there and rescue her. Hopefully that means you beat the game, right? But no, that's some wishful thinking right there. You can walk right through her, you can try to hump her, but nothing happens. The game doesn't even give you a clue. You're just supposed to know that you gotta collect a bunch of secret items before you can rescue the girl. But if you went down to this dungeon place, you're basically trapped. There is a way to get out, but it requires a lot of climbing, where one slip can drop you all the way back down. You're better off just resetting the game. So we're jumping around in thin air, trying to find different suits like spades, hearts, and diamonds. What purpose does this have? I found the princess. Does he need to play poker with her or something? Finding these items, like I said, unless you have a strategy guide or a walkthrough telling you where all these things are, it's just a guessing game. Even worse, jumping around can put you in danger. Come on, a waterfall coming down from the ceiling? Ah, death by a frog. Is this girl really worth all this aggravation? Look at her. She looks like a fucking rag doll. There's no limit to how secretive this game is. There's actually a part where you have to warp by jumping into a bird. You saw that, right? I'm not making that up. There's a warp zone hidden in a bird. How would you ever figure something like that out, unless it's by complete accident? If you try touching the rest of the birds in this game, they kill you. So if you've learned anything from that, it's to avoid them. How stumped and bored would you need to be to start thinking, I guess I'm gonna try jumping in the birds? How the fuck is a kid in 1987 without internet supposed to figure out how to beat this game? So you get all the items, go back into the secret wall, find the princess, and then you win, right? No, the music changes, but the game still goes on. Is there any clue, any dialogue box, anything to give you a hint what to do next? Of course not! You just have to assume to go back to the beginning of the game. That means climbing out of this dungeon, finding another secret passageway, and work your way back. But you're not supposed to go back to the exact start point. That would be a little too easy to guess. So how about this? You fall off a random platform, the screen starts to glitch, and then you win. And that's it. Don't you love games that just end with a black screen with plain text? At least they spelled congratulations right. The third line's a little off-center, but other than that, I don't see any errors. I guess that's why they kept it so short. They knew they'd fuck it up. But the last sentence mystifies me. Please try another world? What other world?
As far as I know, there's a second quest, but it's the same exact game. The only difference is that the items are all in different spots. And after that, the game just keeps repeating over and over and over again, like a never-ending Easter egg hunt. But that'd be like if the Easter eggs were full of diarrhea and the Easter bunny was shitting all over your face. But I've had enough with bunnies and shit lately, so I'm gonna end this right here. What kind of masochist would you have to beat this game more than once? If you did it one time, what would you have to prove to do it again? You'd have to be some kind of fucking idiot.
This food truck is our baby. And like any baby, it's loud, stressful, and draining. And we love it. I refuse to let migraine keep me from saying, I am here.
Aimovig, a preventive treatment for migraine in adults, reduces the number of monthly migraine days. For some, that number can be cut in half or more. The most common side effects are pain, redness or swelling at the injection site, and constipation. Talk to
As a kid, two of my favorite things were video games and Japanese monster movies. Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, Ghidorah, Mechagodzilla. Monsters beating the hell out of each other and blowing the fuck out of everything in sight. I love that shit.
Being a Godzilla fan in the late 80s and early 90s wasn't easy for an American. Because, for one thing, the only way to see these movies was to scan through the TV guide every Sunday and see if any happened to be on, or go to every local video store hoping to be lucky enough to find some on VHS.
During my lifetime, there were only 2 Godzilla films released in theaters here in the United States, Godzilla 1985 and Godzilla 2000. The 1998 American version doesn't count. It wasn't until I got internet that I found out Toho had still been making these movies all through the 90s, but they were only in Japan. I was pissed off. When it came to video games, we also got fucked pretty hard. This was my first Godzilla game, Godzilla on the NES. Let's pop this piece of reptilian fuck nugget in. Godzilla, Monster of Monsters. This should already be a clue to how half-assed this game is, because he's blocking half the title. In 2000 XXX AD. Why is it always X? Like they couldn't come up with an exact year, so just make it X. The Earth receives a declaration. Oh, fuck this. Let's start the game. Great looking game. What's this? Godzilla chess? So you take control of both Godzilla and Mothra and move them around these hexagon spaces. Then you go into these battle zones. This is more like it, right? Classic side-scroller action. Or more like classic mindless button masher. Oh well, at least you have a lot of attacks. Godzilla punches, kicks, swings his tail, and breathes his trademark atomic breath. How often has Godzilla ever been in space? Once, as far as I remember, Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. Why not take place on Earth? I want to trample some buildings. Instead, I'm just beating up on rocks. And how does Godzilla jump without bending his knees? Looks like he's bouncing on a trampoline. What are these things? Evil totem poles? What's this, too? What's that? What's everything? Did they just send Godzilla to some shithole planet that happens to be the garbage can of the cosmos where everything that never existed got thrown away? After you get through one of the battle zones, the CPU moves one of its own monsters. Then it's your turn again. You can move Godzilla or Mothra if you want. Yeah, let's check out Mothra. Well, the good thing is that she can fly, obviously, which means you can bypass obstacles. When you're playing as Godzilla, every 2 seconds there's a pile of rocks in your way. But Mothra just flies over that shit. Well, except when you get hit. Anything that touches her, she gets forced to the ground. She can shoot tomatoes and drop wings. Yeah, she drops wings. That would be like if you could throw your own arms. Mothra sucks. That's all there is to it. When you pick Mothra, the game just laughs. What's this? What the fuck's hitting me? What is this? Oh, it's the volcano? I can't walk past a volcano that's in the background? All I gotta do is hit it? That's a sensible solution. Kick the top of a volcano. The idea of each board is to destroy all the monsters. Here we have Mothra and Ghidorah. Are you kidding? Mothra and Ghidorah? Out of all the available monsters in the Godzilla franchise, they had to go with 2 monsters that weren't even originally from a Godzilla movie. Of course, Mothra appeared in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, and there's stock footage of Ghidorah in Godzilla Final Wars, but those movies didn't happen until way after this game. I found a glitch where you can just keep hitting Mothra with your tail. Look at that. It's so easy. What happened? There's a time limit? Yeah, so if you take too long to fight the monster, you gotta start over. And the monster regains some of its life. You don't. The worst part, after you defeated Mothra and Ghidorah and go to the next stage, guess who's next? Mothra and Ghidorah. Yeah, they just keep recycling the same monsters, but add one per stage. Like here we have Varan, another obscure monster that appeared in its own movie, then made a small cameo in a Godzilla film. Engaging the monsters in battle is awkward. Will you fight the enemy? Yes. Will you fight Ghidorah? Yes, that's the enemy, right? Other times, you don't want to fight the enemy, but it doesn't take no for an answer. No. God damn it, I said no! Then there's times when the game thinks you're trying to move and the monster's blocking your way. Like, yeah, there's the monster. I want to fight him. Throughout the game, the choice of enemies gradually becomes more what you'd expect. It goes from Baragon and the Smog Monster to Gigan and Ghidorah, but Ghidorah is tucked away in a corner, so you'll be lucky if you get that far. Here's Mechagodzilla, now that's what I'm talking about. Almost got him. I'm gonna win! I'm gonna beat Mechagodzilla!
That fucking time limit! That motherfucking shit-sucking time limit! It's not even like there's a counter. It's like the game just pulls the plug, like, oh, you're gonna win? Well, not anymore, you ass-bag, fecal fucker, shit-shaped anus brain. The game cheats. That's it. That's all there is to it. The game fucking cheats.
But we're not done, because there's a sequel, Godzilla 2. This one's gotta be way better, right? I mean, they experimented with the first one, little trial and error. Now it's time for some improvement. I mean, sometimes you gotta take a nasty shit before you can take a better shit. What is this? This doesn't even look like a Godzilla game. This is just as much of a Godzilla game as SimCity when the monster attacks. You don't even get to play as Godzilla. You're the military. You just move tanks and planes around like a fucking board game. When you go to battle mode, it sort of goes into an RPG style. You each take your turns attacking. Whether or not you hit or miss depends on the outcome of a slot machine. Yes, a fucking slot machine. I don't even understand how this whole thing works. But one thing for sure, you'll never be lucky enough to match up all three. You might do minimal damage at best, but the monsters keep regaining their energy. But not you! The music in this game is so horrible, they actually have an option to turn it off. But when you turn off the music, it turns off the sound effects too. So what's the point? You might as well just mute the fucking TV! You thought the first game was bad? This is an insult to the first game. This shouldn't have been called Godzilla 2. That would be like if the NES had a Ninja Gaiden 4, but it was a puzzle game. You don't pretend this is a sequel when it's not even in the same category. Should have been called Godzilla Strategic Operations Simulator, or Simzilla. Well, I'm afraid to say, but let's check out Godzilla on Game Boy. Okay, this looks promising. The demo shows the monster roll call. They all look great. Godzilla looks okay, his head's kinda messed up. Looks like that thing in Empire Strikes Back that comes out of the asteroid. But let's see how the game looks. Are you fucking joking? Godzilla looks like the dragons from Bubble Bobble. You're going around climbing vines, pushing rocks, and hitting monsters with a boxing glove that Godzilla spits from his mouth. How could they do this to the king of the monsters? They might as well have Godzilla in a clown suit jumping on a pogo stick.
I'm not even gonna waste my time with this shit. The best way to sum this up is to recite a very famous quote from William Shakespeare. Fuck it.
Next up, moving over to Super Nintendo, we got Super Godzilla. Ooh, now we're bringing super into it. That means we're not playing around anymore. Time to get serious. Ooh, the year 1990X. They narrowed it down to the decade, so I guess they were a little more confident with the date on this one. The graphics are nice. It looks like what you'd expect in a Godzilla game. But the gameplay is a totally different story. You control Godzilla, who's represented by a blue dot on the map screen. The top of the screen is just for show. So playing as Godzilla, you'd want to be destroying buildings, right? Well, here, the buildings drain your health. That makes no sense. Godzilla destroys buildings all the time. That's what he's good at. That's like if Mike Tyson couldn't punch anybody without hurting his hand. When you engage the enemy monster, it goes to a battle screen. Now this looks like the Godzilla game I've been waiting for. But no, not quite. Because it's unlike any fighting game you've ever played. The on-screen instructions don't make any sense. There's 2 stamina meters, which they refer to as fighting spirit. They say to hold down the enemy's fighting spirit, then punch to open up Godzilla's attack window and pull back quickly. So let me try to summarize. You get close to the enemy, you punch him, then you go back and hit L and R to choose an attack. They don't tell you that, do they? They don't tell you you're supposed to press L and fucking R. Why is it so hard to have 2 monsters fighting without it being a fucking Einstein project? I'd hate to say, but I still prefer the NES version. At least that one's easy to understand how to play it. By this time, I gave up on Godzilla games. If they couldn't get it right on Super Nintendo, then all hope was gone. My wish was just to have a traditional tournament fighter featuring all the Godzilla monsters. Well, my wish was half granted. The Godzilla game of my dreams was actually made, but only released in Japan, which means we're gonna have to play it on the Super Famicom. It's called Godzilla Kaiju Daikessen. It's bittersweet to finally play this. Today, it's nothing special, but back then, I would have loved it. It has most of the monsters you know from the movies. They all have special moves, the backgrounds are recognizable, and the music is there. It's fucking Godzilla. But the whole tragedy of this, and what I'll never forget, is that Nintendo Power teased me with this game. Issue 72, May 1995. Coming soon, Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters. When I saw this page, I shit my pants. A Godzilla tournament fighter? Oh my god, I can't wait to play this. Never again was it mentioned, and never could I find it in stores. Only in Japan, only in Japan.
15 years later, I'm still pissed. All I wanted was a great Godzilla game, but my childhood passed me by, and I never got it. But nowadays, there's plenty of Godzilla games. Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, Godzilla Save the Earth, Godzilla Unleashed. This is after my time. I don't know anything about this here PlayStation 2 and Xbox shit. But I'm gonna give it a try.
Monster Fight!
Why couldn't I have those games when I was a kid? God damn it, I was born too fucking early. Instead, I have to grow up with these miserable pieces of shit fucking anal jugs. These games suck Baragon sweaty ball sack. I'd rather get an electric shock from sucking Mechagodzilla's mechanical wiener. These games are shit, drizzling out of the smog monster's rancid putrid a-hole. And then being swallowed and barfed up by Anguirus while I lay on his spikes getting Gigan's buzzsaw up my ass, while Desodroya dumps his diabolical diarrhea all over my face. Man, it's just a bunch of fuck. It's a pile of cunt. Fuck, shit, fuck, cunt, fuck. God damn it. I just said fuck from the bottom of my heart, and I said every curse that there is. There's nothing left. So you know what? Somebody's got to invent a new curse word. I think I got it. This game, these fucking games are... Oh yeah, it's that bad.
Party on!
What can you say about Wayne's World? It's one of the movies that defined the early 90s. It makes fun of all the cliches that were going on at the time, and it only gets funnier every time you watch it. Now, of course, there had to be video games. This is Wayne's World on the NES. It's hard to imagine what kind of material there is to work with. The movie's about two guys who run a show from their basement, and then a sponsor comes, tries to steal the show, and the rest is just a bunch of jokes. So how do you take that and make it into a game? Let's find out.
Okay, there it is. That's how you make a Wayne's World game. Just have Garth running around with a laser gun shooting stuff. That's real creative. Look at this madness. Walking drums, floating hi-hats. Get it? Because Garth plays drums, he goes into drum world. What kind of idea is that? The graphics make me want to hurl. It's as bland as a kindergarten coloring book. Orange walls, purple floors. Garth is almost completely white, like they didn't have time to color him in. This looks terrible. The music, I shit you not, is just a 2-second loop being repeated over and over. The layout is a joke. Even in the most linear side-scrollers, you still have to figure out which is the best way to maneuver. Like, should I go up on this platform or should I go underneath? But here, you can just stay on the ground and keep walking right. There's zero strategy involved. The next level, you're Wayne, but this is where the game gets incredibly difficult, because Wayne can't do anything other than this awkward kick. Of course, Wayne is well known for his martial arts. You can't kill anything unless it's right next to you. Most of the time, you get killed first. And then you go back to the Garth stage. That's it. You die once, you start over. There's a bonus stage at a donut shop, but it looks more like an eyeball factory. You're just going around collecting donuts. But I can never figure out how to get the donuts in the middle, and whenever you jump down, you hurt yourself. Everything just sucks. I like how in one of the cutscenes, well, I use the term cutscene very loosely, but anyway, they're talking about going to the bands playing at the gas works, and they mentioned the lousy Beatles. In the movie, it was the shitty Beatles. It's a shame they can't use the word shitty in a Nintendo game, because shitty is the best word to describe this whole thing. The enemies are the most cliche you could possibly think of. When would Wayne and Garth ever be fighting spiders and ninjas? Who cares, right? As long as the game says Wayne's World, kids will want it. There is clearly no thought process going on behind this miserable mess. Just make a game based on a popular movie and shit it into the stores. Talk about some 8-bit frustration right here. I hate this kick. You have to time it perfectly. God. What are these things anyway? Just floating TV screens? Not floating TVs, but floating TV screens. Jeez. Wayne is just completely worthless. Oh, look what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna jump over there and the spider's gonna kill me. Damn it!
The hell with this game? I can't say I expected it to be good, but this is just a maximum catastrophe of ass.
You're not going to believe this, but there's another one on the Super Nintendo. The only difference is that we're going from 8-bit vomit to 16-bit vomit. One is just as bad as the other, but without the original gag reflex one gets from eating dog shit that's been blended with goat piss. It starts with Wayne and Garth doing a top 10 list of worst video games. The irony is stunning. In this game, Wayne's trying to rescue Garth, which is already a disappointment not to be able to play as both of them. That's like Bill and Ted with just Bill, or Beavis and Butthead with just Beavis. Wayne looks like a bobblehead. Your weapon is a guitar that shoots sonic booms, and the environment is once again constructed from different pieces of musical equipment. Instruments of all kinds, even bagpipes, and amps that shoot lightning. You'd think by now they could have come up with a more original idea. The voices are redundant. Every time Wayne gets an item, he says, excellent. Excellent. And every time he gets hit, he says, not. Not. That doesn't make any sense. What is he saying not to? Usually the word not follows a sarcastic statement. It's like explaining it to Borat. But whether or not these voices are used in the right context, it gets incredibly aggravating to have to hear the same thing over and over again. Excellent. Not. Maybe it would have been cute to hear it one time, but who thought it was a good idea to program it like this? Are they mental? The controls are awful. You can't shoot while ducking. Not. You can accidentally jump up to a higher platform, and when you try to land on things, you have to be at the right angle or else you fall through. Not. After a little bit of time, you start to get used to it, as if your brain begins to flick the shit switch and adapt to its bad controls. But even after I've overcome the crappy learning curve, still I can't pass the first level. Talk about non-linear. This level is a maze. I can't even figure out where I'm supposed to go, let alone survive.
Well, I can't beat the first level, so I'm done with this game. Well, there is a code. So we might as well put in the code and take a peek at the rest of the game.
The second stage is at the diner. Apparently either Wayne got shrunk down in size, or everything is giant. This doesn't have anything to do with Wayne's World. Did they think they were making a game of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? And everything's alive. Coffee cups, donut men. What's going on here? And could you guess the boss of this level? Would you expect anything different than a giant donut? The music in this stage is real familiar. Is this supposed to be Foxy Lady? sounds kind of like it. Maybe they couldn't get the rights. It also has the all-time worst butchering of Bohemian Rhapsody. Stage 3 is the Gasworks. Remember Wayne's annoying ex-girlfriend? Well, she makes an appearance in this game. Several.
Hi, Wayne.
What, did she find a way to clone herself? What kind of bar is this? What kind of bar would put their arcade machines up on ledges where no normal person could reach? What bar would have fire shooting out of the floor? The main enemies you face are laser-shooting disco balls. That's original. My favorite are the darts. It's like people are throwing darts and you're getting in the way. You wouldn't believe the boss. Seriously, take a guess who the boss is. A giant disco ball? No. A giant pinball machine? No. Some generic bar guy? No. The answer is Elvis.
Jelly donut. Jelly donut. Jelly donut.
Elvis is in a Wayne's World game.
Thank you very much.
Could it be any more out of place? Doesn't Wayne's World exist in the 90s? What is Elvis doing there? Does he have to talk so damn much?
Thank you very much.
The last level is a neighborhood that's been sucked into purgatory, I guess. I'm just making that up. It's a bunch of homes floating in the clouds. How else would you describe it? The layout still finds ways to throw you off. What's blocking me? A pole that's in the foreground? Shouldn't I be able to walk behind it? There's a deranged hockey player who doesn't even look like a human being. But what is a human being according to this game? Someone with a bobblehead? Or someone who looks like some kind of cartoon monster? The last boss of the game, are you ready for this? A gelatinous cube that swallowed Garth. Now this is funny because as random as it is, this cube was actually mentioned in the movie as an arcade game at Noah's Arcade. But I never thought in a million years I would see the gelatinous cube in a real-life game. The ending is just another cutscene with Wayne and Garth. It's the same sort of thing you see between the levels, so it's nothing special.
I think I'm gonna hurl. Time for Halloween again. Now this time, I'm giving myself a break, and I'm going back to one of my favorite video game franchises, Castlevania. It never stops. The same way Dracula keeps getting resurrected, I keep finding these games just creeping into my subconscious. The same way the Belmont family has to keep putting evil back in its place, I'm cursed to keep doing game reviews and constantly mentioning Castlevania.
Say from the Castlevania, kind of reminds me of a Castlevania. It's like in Castlevania, the Castlevania. So once again, it's like Castlevania.
I talk about it all the fucking time. So what the hell, let me just get it all out. This is gonna be a big ass Castlevania marathon with my own perspective. This is Castlevania, how I remember it.
It's the Nintendo age. I'm sitting on my ass playing Super Mario Brothers when my cousin comes over and says, "You want to play Castlevania?" Instantly, it triggered images of Dracula in my mind and of all the frightening horrors that lurk in the dark. We popped that evil son of a bitch in the Nintendo and bam! What can you say? It's side-scrolling 2D action at its finest. Now keep in mind, NES was in its early years, so I was still getting used to games that consisted of more than one screen. When I got to the giant bat, I thought it was Dracula, but nope, just the first level boss. I still had a whole game ahead of me. Not only is it a culmination of our classic gaming sensibilities, but of all the horror cliches. We have mummies, hunchbacks, and the Frankenstein monster straight out of the Universal movies. It also reminds me of the Hammer horror films with all its gothic scenery, and it draws from Greek mythology too, like the Medusa. Even the Grim Reaper makes an appearance. Death himself takes orders from Dracula.
This game is simply a masterpiece. I love it. Well, I never said it would be easy.
I am prepared to talk about the more frustrating aspects of the game, but first I want to discuss the more quirky moments, just those funny fantasy video game elements that are usually taken for granted. One thing I never understood, after you defeat a boss, an orb comes down and you have to touch it. What's the point? Couldn't the next level just start right away? Why do I have to touch an orb? And besides, what the fuck is an orb anyway? Just a glowing ball? Another thing I want to know is who is the architect for this castle? All these blocks and staircases have no rhyme or reason. How about all these candles? They're everywhere. But the Simon Belmont, that's common. You see a candle, you whip it, and hearts come out.
If I were to whip a fucking candle, would hearts come out? I'd like to know. Oh shit!
In most games, hearts replenish your health. But in Castlevania, they're basically ammunition for whatever weapon you're holding. In the second game, the hearts are currency. So in a nutshell, the hearts in Castlevania games are anything but health. The only thing that replenishes your health are food that Simon conveniently finds in the walls. I always thought it was a roasted turkey or a carved ham right out of a Tom and Jerry cartoon. However, the instruction manual says that it's a pork chop. Okay, well that's a pretty big pork chop. Who cooked it anyway and hid it in the fucking wall? And if you were Simon Belmont, would you eat an old pork chop that you found in a wall? It must be fucking dirty.
I do have to say that would be convenient if all I had to do was just whip the wall when I was hungry. If this wall would break and if there's a fucking pork chop in this wall, I would so eat it.
Now let's talk about the difficulty. I don't think anyone would deny this is one of the hardest games ever made. And it's all because of one simple problem. When Simon gets hit, he jumps back. You could have full health, but just because there's a pit behind you, you're dead. It's a severe handicap that fucks up the entire game and the rest of the series. Then there's certain enemies that just piss the shit out of me. There's hunchbacks which jump all over the place. I used to think they were monkeys. And then of course there's those enemies that just fly across the screen, like the Medusa heads and the bats. The hardest part in the entire game, besides Dracula, is the hall right before the Grim Reaper. You have Medusa heads coming at you from both directions, and two knights throwing axes at two different altitudes. I mean, look at the pattern going on here. Anything that hits you drains a quarter of your health, so that means 4 hits and you're dead. Oh, but the knights take 9 hits. 9 fucking hits. You can't even concentrate on attacking them because you're too busy dodging Medusas. But you can't dodge the Medusas because you're too busy dodging the axes. But you can't dodge the axes because you're trying to hit the knight. But you can't hit the knight because the game's driving you fucking crazy. It's like a test. It's a test to the shit. When you get to Dracula, don't even bother fighting him until you stock up on hearts. Go back down the steps, come back up, and all the candles are back. Rinse and repeat. This is extremely tedious, and nobody feels like doing it, but if you want to stand any chance against Dracula, you're gonna have to. Dracula may not seem so bad at first, especially after you send his fucking head to the moon, but then... oh my god. What in the unholy name of ass is this fuckness? Oh wait, that's not a word? Well, it should be. So you fight the evil cookie monster, your health is never replenished, so this whole thing is like an endurance round. If you took one single hit on Dracula, I say your chances against the cookie monster are up a rat's ass.
It took me 20 years, but I finally got this game beat. Your mother!
And you still gotta get the orb? Oh, you're gonna replenish my health right after I beat the game? Thank you so much. Dracula's castle crumbles, and then come the credits. Trans Fisher? It reminds me of Terrence Fisher, the director of many of the Hammer horror films. That's a funny coincidence. Oh wait, Bram Stoker? Like Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula? Well, Christopher B?
Is it a joke? I don't get it. Are they saying Christopher Lee is like a bee? No, it can't mean that. This is probably just a series of strangely coincidental typos. Belo Lugosi, Boris Karloff's, they're just fucking around. Love Cheney Jr., Mick Shreks, Green Stranger? Is this supposed to be funny? Like, just to take a celebrity's name and change it around? That's like if I took the name Steven Spielberg and called him Steven Gielberg. Like, that's not funny. That's kindergarten level. No, kindergarten students don't find that funny. Aliens don't find that funny. Well, anyway, that's Castlevania for you. Good game, but holy fuck is it hard. Now, as promised, we're going to plow through the rest of them. All the old school Castlevania games. The ones that I grew up with. Not that one. Next on our list is Castlevania 3, which in many ways is the true follow-up. No, I already reviewed that game. So anyway... No. Stop. Stop. Stop!
This food truck is our baby. And like any baby, it's loud, stressful, and draining. And we love it. I refuse to let migraine keep me from saying, I am.
This game is the unholy fuckness. You probably remember it as my first game review. That was 5 years ago, before I took on the regular duty of playing shitty duty. Back then, I wasn't as hardcore. I used a code and I skipped over a lot of the game. So now is my second chance, because I'm going to do it for real this time. I only scraped the surface off this smelly turd, and after that, it really starts to stink.
Just to clarify, though this game is terribly flawed, it still has a lot of nostalgic value for me. The graphics and the music are fantastic, and it still has that Castlevania atmosphere. Oh, then there's parts like that. Why is it necessary to interrupt the game like that so often? You need hearts to buy stuff, and when you die, you lose all your hearts and you have to start from scratch. So if you're trying to buy something, your best bet is to stay in one spot that you feel safe and just keep killing the same enemies over and over. I mean, what fun is that? When it's nighttime, you're just totally screwed because the stores are all closed. So the only thing you have to do is just wait for daytime and chase zombies around. Ugh, get over here, you fucking zombie piece of shit. It's times like this when you get real bored, you find glitches, like at the door. Why does the holy water just stop? For some reason I always found that amusing. I could do that for hours. This is the first Castlevania game to adopt a non-linear style, where you have to roam around and explore. It's a neat idea, just not executed too well. The whole plot is that after Simon destroyed Dracula in the first game, all his body parts were scattered into different mansions. Now, Simon has to rid the curse of Dracula once and for all, and to do this, he has to go into each mansion and throw a fucking oak stake at an orb. You now possess Dracula's rib. Or wait, possess? Possess? Are you kidding me? Well, anyway, it's boggled my brain to no end. How is anybody supposed to know to throw an oak stake at an orb? So I found this one clue. It reads, a symbol of evil will appear when you strike the stake. Gee, that really helps. Couldn't it at least mention, like, where you're supposed... A pair? A pair? Does anybody proofread this shit? It only goes to show how much effort they spent on the game when they can't even get the fucking text right. The text itself seems to be one of the main issues. Not just spelling errors, but the information too. It seems like they're giving you clues, but they never make any sense, and most of the time they're just flat out lies. In adventure games, especially RPGs, getting clues is a big part of the game. So as a gamer, you're inclined to regard what they say as true. After all, why else would it be in the game? To confuse the shit out of you, that's why. The part that's disturbed me the most is that when you walk in this house, you find this old creepy bitch sitting on the floor. Looks like roadkill with a mop on top. She says, let's live here together. Okay, fine, we'll just live here. Yeah, so, nice place. To sum things up, reading anything in this game is just as useless as the guy in Zelda 2 who says, I am error. That's why this is what you call a Nintendo Power game. Of course, there's the wall, where you have to select the red crystal, kneel down, and then wait for a tornado. But that's just the beginning. There's a part where you have to go under a lake. I can just barely see the platform, so I get the idea that I'm supposed to go down there. But if you touch the water, you die. You have to select the blue crystal, then you kneel down for a few seconds, and then you can go through the water. Who the fuck is supposed to figure that out? There's another spot where you have to go into a cemetery and drop a piece of garlic so you can get a silver knife. Who's this person in a robe who waits in a cemetery for someone to come by and drop garlic? So there's the cryptic parts, but then there's parts which are just plain annoying. Some of the jumps are outrageous. Oh man, get up there! Then there's these blocks. It doesn't look that hard. It seems like you could just hop on over, but if your timing isn't 100% accurate, your jump doesn't reach. I'm gonna try again. Just hop on over, but if your timing isn't 100%. Oh, this game is poopy. The most annoying enemies in this game that I never forget are the blobs. They just bounce all over the place. You can't get away from them, especially if you're on the stairs. Oh, what? Let's take a look at that again. I'm on the stairs, totally defenseless. The blob knocks me off and I fall through the fake block. That is so fucking cheap.
The most annoying hazard in this game is water.
Seriously, water? Why is that such an issue? Oh, come on, that wasn't even on the same screen. The last thing to mention are the bosses. There's very few of them, and let me tell you, they got lazy with these bosses. I mean, real lazy. You know how hard the Grim Reaper is in the first game? Well, if you do, then wait till you see how hard he is here. Damn, I'm lucky I got past that Grim Reaper. Then of course, you walk through an empty castle to fight the easiest end boss in video game history. And there you have Castlevania 2.
Well, that was a mouthful, but we should conclude this episode with the last of the NES trilogy, Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse.
In this game, you take control of Trevor Belmont, an ancestor of Simon's who battles Dracula for the first time, making this game a prequel. goes back to the basic style of the first game, but has two main innovations. The first thing, you often come to a fork in the road where you get to choose which path to take. The other thing is that you get to play as other characters whom you meet along the way. There's Grant, who climbs on walls, Sypha, who has magic spells, and Alucard, who can turn into a bat, but you need enough hearts to do it. Alucard happens to be Dracula's son. The name Alucard's Dracula spelled backwards, and it came from the 1943 movie Son of Dracula. With these innovations, I think it's the best Castlevania game on the NES. But it's also the hardest. There's a stage where the screen keeps moving up. If you're caught at the bottom, you die. What kind of logic is that? In Trevor Belmont's world, what killed him? The TV screen? So you can't waste any time, you gotta keep going up. No, what the shit was that fucking nonsense? Tell me that's fair to make you have to hurry only to have knights appear out of nowhere. Your greatest hazard in this game is not pits, not water or spikes or anything like that, it's the stairs. The fucking stairs are your worst nightmare. If you're next to the stairs and you try to use your special attack, the attack doesn't work. Instead, you go up the stairs. Look at this, like, God, get down, I want to attack the knight. Oh, God, get off the stairs. Oh, God, you're defenseless. When you're on the stairs, your ass is fucked. How about the floor? Let's make the floor a death trap too. Okay, that's fine if you want to play shit like that, but how in the holy goddamn mother shit fucking Christ of cunt fuck am I supposed to attack the enemy when the fucking floor's falling down? Did the game developers expect you to be some kind of miracle multitasker?
Thank God for Alucard. See, I can cheat too, you rotten bastard.
Oh, and when you're using Sypha's freeze spell, whatever you do, don't freeze the enemy projectiles. That was a disaster. And that's the way this whole game is. It's just an ongoing train wreck.
This fucker's got no mercy. This is the reason why Game Genie was invented. But I'm not doing that because I'm gonna do this legit. Now where's that extra live code?
Help me. That's it. You spell help me. Isn't that the most appropriate password you ever heard? Because anyone who plays this game, that's exactly what you're thinking. I've made it to Dracula, but never beaten him. Wherever you stand, 2 towers of fire come up, trapping you, while another tower comes up in the middle. How are you supposed to dodge that? It gets you every time. The worst thing about this is that when you die, it doesn't start you back at the stairs. No, not like the other games. Instead, it sends you all the way back to the beginning of the stage. It's fucking relentless. And Dracula has 3 forms. You're telling me you have to make it all the way through the stage and fight 3 forms of Dracula without any fucking continues or power-ups? Are you mad? How are you supposed to do that?
If there's any game that puts you in a bad mood, it's Castlevania 3. You know? Like, if you want a game that'll piss you off, putting this game in your Nintendo is like running open-armed out into a rainstorm of piss. You want to go balls to the wall? Well, there's one way to put your balls to the wall, and that's to stick your dick in an electric outlet. You want to play shit tennis with an orangutan while having your head up a hyena's asshole? Well, good luck. Well, that finishes off the Castlevania trilogy. But there's more memories to be shared. Because Dracula never dies, Halloween is going overtime, it's a Castlevania-thon. Oh! Oh!
When the 1980s came to an end, the Castlevania trilogy was already etched into my mind as classic. It was the archetype of both the action and horror genres and a masterpiece in side-scrolling gaming. Roughly at the turn of the decade came the 16-bit era. I had no idea that it could actually get better. In 1991, Castlevania made its transition to the new Super Nintendo. But this wasn't just Castlevania 4, oh no, this was Super Castlevania 4, and well worthy of that title. The graphics and sound just blew my fucking balls off. The haunting and chilling atmosphere of the old games was now like a walk through the park with the Care Bears. This time, I was really getting scared. At the time, this must have been the greatest opening to any video game yet. The fog keeps rolling in until it envelops the shattered gravestone and almost seems to be creeping into the room itself. And then, of course, we have the game. Oh yeah, this is where it's at. The graphics give a supreme demonstration of what the Super Nintendo could do. There's not two levels that look alike, and the attention to detail is exquisite. The first time I played, I didn't even notice that skull in the background. If you look close enough, you can see bats flying out. There's a stage where the background spins, giving you a three-dimensional effect. Then there's the room that rotates two-dimensionally, and you have to hang on to your whip. It gives you a feeling of disorientation that I hadn't felt yet in a game. But the best advantage, the most important thing that they improved here, was the control. The choppy stiffness of the earlier games, gone. Now, it's fluent and perfect. You can whip straight up, down, or in any direction. That's 8 directions you can whip. If you hold down the button and fuck about with the D-pad, you can do all kinds of tricks. It doesn't have much purpose, but it's pretty cool. Being able to whip any way you want makes it easier to attack enemies while you're in mid-air. Not to mention, when you jump, you have more ability to control where you land. You can even move while crouching. The control is perfect. And that's the key word here, control. You feel like you're in control. It's almost like Simon Belmont can do anything, even moonwalk. It's as if you are Simon Belmont and fully immersed in the game. That means that the difficulty isn't all about stiff controls and cheap deaths, but this time in genuine, fair challenge. For the most part. As far as the story goes, it's more or less a remake of the first game. Some fans might have been a little disappointed that there's no other playable characters and it goes back to the linear style, but that's how I like it best, straightforward and simple. The replay value is high for me, and I'd pop this fucker in any day. In its final stages, it plays the music from all 3 of the NES games. It's like nostalgic memories of a Nintendo game within another Nintendo game. That's it, the perfect Castlevania game. But what will come next? We had a sequel, a prequel, and a remake. Which direction could the series go after this? At this point, my expectations were soaring in the heavens, and I couldn't wait for Castlevania 5. This is where the disappointment began, and forever kept rolling downhill like a ball of dog dookie down a muddy slope. I opened up the pages of Nintendo Power, and there it was, Castlevania Dracula X. I said it out loud to myself.
Castlevania Dracula X. I wondered, why not just call it Castlevania 5? Well, that's what I thought back then, but if only I knew the original Japanese title, Devil's Castle Dracula X Rondo of Blood. Just rolls right off your tongue.
The original version on the PC Engine would be unknown in North America for years to come until it was eventually released on the PSP. The Super Nintendo version is often seen as a butchered port, but I think it's a decent addition to the series. In this game, you take control of a new Belmont named Richter. He's not quite as skilled with the whip. Once again, you're restricted to only whipping in a horizontal manner, a major downfall from the previous game.
Throwing special items on the stairs, once again it's a little tricky because you have to use the D-pad.
Unlike the last game, which conveniently used the R button, this time you're back to the NES control of using up plus the attack button. However, you do have a backflip, which can come in handy sometimes. But for the most part, you're ill-equipped to deal with the unfair challenges. The distances you're expected to jump are stretched so far that the only way to make them is if you jump from the absolute edge, as close as you can possibly get without falling off. The frustration in this game is back full fucking force. Every level is an endurance, and you'll be begging for a pork chop all the time. The final battle with Dracula is impossible. Fucking possible. Is it bad enough Dracula turns into a devil wearing a Speedo? But on top of that, you have to hop across platforms? Anywhere you stand, one hit will knock you off and kill you. Dracula X was a decent game, but not a worthy successor to the masterpiece Castlevania 4, so the search was still on. Now let me explain something for a minute. I couldn't afford more than one game system at a time, plus a library of games to support it. So I passed on PlayStation in favor of the next Nintendo console. I was sure that the same way the Super Nintendo impressed me so much, the Nintendo 64 would come along and do the same, delivering the next best Castlevania. I was ready to have my balls blown off by awesomeness once again. There were two games, one simply titled Castlevania and the other Castlevania Legacy of Darkness. They were both released the same year and share the same style of gameplay. Like Mario and Zelda, Castlevania was making a leap to the third dimension. The graphics are good for Nintendo 64 standards, but I find them unappealing because it's the beginning of the 3D age and they haven't perfected it yet. It's that awkward period between the old and the new. Now, because both these games are so similar, I'm only going to talk about this one. If I talk about every game, I'll be doing this till next year. After all, this is the last Castlevania game I played when it was new, closing my personal recollection of how I experienced the series. You get a choice between two characters, Reinhardt and Carrie. Reinhardt uses the whip.
The control is awkward. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like Castlevania was made to be in 2D. I don't know, just for some reason, Ocarina of Time worked out so much better.
So I'm going with Carrie, because at least she has a projectile, giving you a longer range. But now I'm playing as like a schoolgirl. It doesn't look anything like Castlevania anymore. In this stage, you have to pull levers to open gates. So when you get to a lever, it says operate the mechanism, yes or no. Why does it bother asking me this? Obviously I want to pull the lever. What's my other option? To just stare at the fucking background? The enemies are a complete joke. A Frankenstein monster wielding a chainsaw? What? Skeletons on motorcycles? And this game takes place in 1852. Was there fucking motorcycles back then? The music sucks. It just sucks. Think it sucks? Listen. It sucks. There is no fucking music. The control is what kills it. You grab onto these steps, and when you try to climb up, you just move back and forth. You want to know what your worst enemy is in this game? Medusa heads? No. Stairs? No. Water? No. This time, it's the camera itself. You can never situate the camera at the right angle to see what the hell you're doing. It just points wherever it wants. Okay, so now I'm at a part where I'm supposed to destroy a cracked wall using two separate items. So I gotta find these two items and combine them together so they make some kind of explosive chemical. One's called a mandragora and the other is nitro. I got the mandragora first, but now when I try to pick up the nitro, it's telling me I can't carry them together because they'll explode. So, okay, I guess I gotta carry them one at a time. No problem, right? Well, I carried the mandragora over this cracked wall, and guess what? I just realized I have no clue how to put this thing down.
There's no drop or throwaway option, nothing. I tried putting it in these garbage chutes on the wall, but still no luck. Then I found these statues that talk to you. At first, I thought they were just giving you hints, letting you know what to do with the Nitro and Mandragora, but since I can't seem to place the stuff on the ground, I figure I have to talk to these statues in order to even use the items at all. Even though that makes no sense, that's like talking to a fire hydrant so you can use dynamite to demolish a building. But anyway, talking to the statues doesn't work either. Turns out I was supposed to get the Nitro first, but now that I'm stuck holding the Mandragora, there's nothing I can do. The game's over. What a fatal flaw. Just because you miss some object, it won't let you continue. I don't know what else to do, so the only other thing I can think of is to start the entire game over. And this time, make sure to get the Nitro first. Well, I did just that. I started all the way back from the beginning, made it all the way back to the castle center. So here we are, I got the Nitro first. Now I'm heading over to the cracked wall again. Oh shit, it's explosive. That means you have to walk really slow and be careful not to touch anything. You're not even allowed to jump. Shit. Oh, damn. And every time it happens, you go back to the save spot. Oh my god, this takes forever. Come on. Come on. Oh, this is so boring. Well, finally, after about a half hour of walking incredibly slow, I made it to the cracked wall. Well, at least I have the Nitro this time. Right? What the fuck? I still can't use the item? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Life sucks. Life fucking sucks, and so does this game. After Castlevania on Nintendo 64, I'd given up hope for the next great game in the series. Several years later, I realized I'd been looking in the wrong place. Like I said before, I stuck with the Nintendo consoles, and I missed out on the other Castlevania games, like Castlevania Bloodlines on the Sega Genesis. That's what you call Castlevania. Traditional side-scrolling action. Familiar, yet fresh. It takes place all over Europe rather than just strictly in Transylvania. You get a choice of two characters, John Morris and Eric Lecarde. I wonder what happened to the Belmonts. Who are these people? Well, supposedly John Morris is the son of Quincy Morris from Dracula, the Bram Stoker novel.
That just blew my mind. It's like now we're bringing the novel into it? So the whole canon of the games is now with the canon of the book, and it's like taking two canons and put them together.
Anyway, this is a great game for the Sega Genesis library, but it's still not on par with Castlevania 4. Whipping in 8 directions, the moonwalking, all that's gone. The graphics, the sound, the gameplay, it's all really good, but it's not as good. Then I turned to the PlayStation, the console which I underestimated so much. There I found Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Holy hot damn, this is fucking good. The graphics and sound are superb, but there is some pretty cheesy voice acting.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets. But enough talk. How about you?
The game's a sequel to Dracula X. In the opening scene, you play as Richter Belmont battling Dracula. The rest of the game, you play as Alucard, who's powerful as fuck. Anything that stands in your way, no matter how big, one hit and it just fucking explodes. That is until you meet Death, who takes all your weapons away. Now, Alucard sucks. All you get is this dinky sword, and every enemy takes like 9 million hits to kill. As you go through the game, you gain power-ups and upgrade your weapons, which is like many games, but to start you off with the good weapons and then take them away is just fucking teasing you. Alucard has this backward dash, but I never found a reason